first start of his career in that game, but Glazeman won it out in camp, and I'm sure Stanford's going to throw some different looks at him today.
Now the Cardinal perhaps under the radar this season with the losses of Christian McCaffrey and Solomon Thomas, a pair of top 10 picks in this summer's NFL draft. But don't tell that to David Shaw. More on that as we go through. A great turnout here in Sydney for the Sydney Cup. What a week it has been for both of these programs, Tom, for us at ESPN. We have been welcomed with incredible hospitality in the heart of the wintertime in the Southern Hemisphere, right?
One of my two favorite days, Roy. You know, Christmas and then the start of college football.
Cardinal in all white, Rice with their navy blue, and Stanford on the opening coin toss will receive. Fox kicks it 5 yards deep, and the touchback. So our first look at Keller Chris. We mentioned the ACL injury. He is undefeated as a starting quarterback, Tom, 6-0 after taking over for Ryan Burns last year, and he could be a developing story in the Pac-12 this season.
Yeah, Keller Chris, when you go back and look at last year and what he's able to do, of course, he's the son of a coach. His father, Jeep, is the tight end coach with the Denver Broncos. His uncle, Paul, just happens to be the head coach at the University of Wisconsin. So he's been around the game for a long time, but Keller Chris has full control of this offense, and I expect him to run a lot of different packages today and get him in some really good throwing situations.
Multiple tight end formation as Irwin goes in motion. Cardinal 10-3 last year. 8 straight bowl games. The deep handoff to Bryce Love. A little stutter step. And Bryce Love off to the races on his first play from scrimmage. Finally ushered out of bounds just short of the 10-yard line by Justin Bickham. Nearly took it to the house.
Well, you talked a moment ago, Roy, about finding some substitutions for Solomon Thomas and Christian McCaffrey. I think Stanford just found the replacement right there. Bryce Love hitting the hole, and he's up the field, and he almost breaks it. Just a shoelace tackle there slowed him down, and boy, you see his explosiveness right there.
Gain of 63 yards. Stanford in business on its first possession. Cardinal picks second, rugged Pac-12 North. Right behind Washington on first down. Chris have that one batted down. It'll be second down and 10.
That big number 99, Preston Gordon, getting his hand up that time, knocking the ball away as it came out of Chris' hands.
Gordon, the junior out of McKinney, Texas. Great conversations with both of these coaching staffs this week. They've treated it like a bowl game leading up to this afternoon's kickoff. It is just after noon here in Sydney, for those wondering back home. 14 hours ahead of the East Coast. Second and 10 coming up for Chris and the Cardinal. To the end zone. Back shoulder toss. And it is caught for the touchdown. The tight end Parkinson makes the grab. He's been spending time this offseason in the slot from 13 yards out, and just like that, Stanford on the board, Tom.
Well, Colby Parkinson, all of 6'7", 230 pounds out of Oaks Christian in Los Angeles, and they just get the matchup they want. They're one-on-one with the corner, who's about 5'10", and that's an easy throw for Keller Chris. Keep the ball up. Parkinson with a nice grab and control of the ball comes down with the touchdown.
75 yards in 3 plays, and quite a statement for Stanford.
Yeah, they made it look easy.
Toner on for the extra point. This Aussie crowd. One of their favorite moments, of course. You love the rugby, you love the Australian rules football. Any kind of kicking is a good thing, and for Stanford, off and running here in 2017. Back in beautiful Australia here in Sydney. Look at the Manly Beach. Manly Beach, they call it. Beautiful town. Some 4 million Australian citizens live here in Sydney. Tom Ramsey, Roy Philpott, and a quick start for the Stanford Cardinal. The longest run of Bryce Love's career. 63-yarder. It set up the first scoring strike for Keller Chris Rice set to receive the football for the first time. About 55 degrees for kickoff. It is wintertime in Sydney. It's been a great week for all of us. Jack Baylor will kick things off for the Cardinals, dressed in all white. And some 30,000 fans expected for this game this afternoon. It is Sunday afternoon for those wondering. Here down under. From 3 yards deep. And sacked just past the 10-yard line. It'll be 1st and 10 for the Owls. Making his first start, Sam Glazeman. Quint Kesting has more on the redshirt freshman.
I was standing next to him during the national anthem, and he exhaled deeply, trying to control his emotions. You see, his dream growing up was to be a Division I quarterback. He verbalized that to his brother when he was in middle school. 3 weeks ago, he was named starter. He called his mom, Mary Lou. Got so choked up, he cried on the phone. Today, the fulfillment of a dream. Seemed a little nervous and tense during warm-ups. Shocker. Let's see how he handles it.
Tears of happiness. Yeah, your first start, you'll get a little choked up for sure.
I would imagine. In motion is Walter. An early procedural penalty against the Owls will back him up 5.
Number 70, 5-yard penalty, first down.
Mark Duddy, our official today. Pac-12 crew in what's considered a Rice home game. As Thompson the guilty party.
And Roy, just not what Rice wanted out of the gate. He really wanted to get the ball to 20 at least. So they had a slow start on the kickoff return. Then the first play from scrimmage, they have a penalty.
Out of Waco, Texas, redshirted last year. On 8 days into camp, he's named the starter. And more laundry.
Delay of game, offense, half the distance to the goal, first down.
Well, for offensive play caller Billy Lynch, not the kind of start.
Well, and here's what you have. Billy Lynch, the offensive coordinator, he is up in the booth. He's getting the plays down to the coach on the sideline, and then they're signaling or wig-wagging the plays into Glazeman. However, Glazeman's got to keep an eye on the play clock because it's again down at 10, and they got to just hurry up. Otherwise, they're going to penalize themselves right into the end zone.
And just 5 seconds remaining. And off of play action. Oh, the handoff. Sandwiched inside the 1. Second down and long coming up. Eric Cotton made the stop. Samuel Stewart, the starting running back, 45 in blue for David Bailiff. Billy Lynch is high energy. We talked to him this week, and Coach Bailiff said that he's been a knucklehead down on the sidelines. He wants him up in the booth because he is not necessarily so high strung, but just has a lot going on and wants to get that right play call, Tom. Good luck here on 2nd and long from inside the 1.
Well, they just continue to misfire a procedure that time on the right guard, Kenneth Thompson. They just can't get out of the way of their own shadow.
Offense, number 70, half the distance to the goal, second down.
Thompson replacing Corey Klinger, who's not playing this afternoon here in Sydney.
Well, here's what Rice knew coming in, Roy. The hallmark of David Shaw's teams at Stanford, you think offense because they've scored so many points over the years. It's really defense. Lance Anderson, the defensive coordinator, does a great job, but when a team helps you out and continues to go backwards, they play right into your hands.
Second down and 19. And a short pickup. Make it 3rd down again from inside the 5. Harrison Phillips, the talented defensive tackle, with a stop. Big number 66 in white. He's a talker as well, isn't he?
Well, he is, and he's one of the guys on that defensive front that really has to fill the void of Solomon Thomas. He actually helped Solomon Thomas a year ago because Harrison Phillips does such a great job holding the point from that nose tackle position that allowed Thomas to free up and make a lot of tackles. Right now, he's the leader of the trenches.
Super the handoff. And nothing doing for Rice on its first possession. What a start for Stanford. 2 teams ended last season in the regular season as Phillips makes another hit.
Yeah, Phillips again right there. They can't get by the big nose tackle.
It's 41-17. Stanford holding serve at home in that win. Quinn, how about the perspective down there on the field for this punt for Rice?
This is about an 11-yard snap. Jack Fox has got to catch this one step and get it out. There's no space to operate. He's got to watch his feet, not stepping on the end line.
And Fox will get it out cleanly as Tyler calls for the fair catch, muffed the football. It'll be 1st and 10 for Stanford when we come back. The 14th ranked Cardinal on the board first, thanks in part to the 63-yard scamper by Bryce Love, longest run of his career, Tom.
Well, we talked about it, him being one of the guys to fill the void of Christian McCaffrey. I think Stanford found out right there how explosive Bryce Love is. And see, the first time he touches it, he almost goes the distance. And then Keller Christ, of course, with the touchdown throw, the young freshman Colby Parkinson, just a complete mismatch to the 6'7" tight end.
Slow start for Rice. Weddington in the backfield for the first time. Chris sensing the backfield pressure. Throws it incomplete. So the pocket collapse that time. That'll bring up 2nd down and 10. Shantz coming in on the backside, Tom.
Yeah, Grayson Shantz coming from the defensive end position. A lot of pressure that time on Keller Christ and really forced him into a bad throw, almost an interception.
Talented tight end Dalton Schultz set up shop on the right side of the Stanford offensive front. And here's Bryce Love. The jitterbug. A jump cut and shoved out of bounds near the 30. That'll be another chain mover for the Cardinal after a gain of 15 yards.
Well, here's what Stanford, that play really exemplifies what Stanford does well, Roy. They just get hat on hat. They block people right at the point of attack. They put Bryce Love in space so he can go one-on-one against the tackler, and he runs right by eBay.
That's David Shaw this week. Bryce Love in 3 words. Dynamic, explosive, physical. And for a player that's only 5'10", $196, surprising power. Empty backfield for the first time as Stanford will show its spread formation. And across the middle, broken up. Cole Thomas in the area as he snuck in there, the senior from Katy, Texas.
That's really a nice play by Cole Thomas. He just read the pattern and he jumped on the crossing route. And Keller Christ, one thing that he may do a little bit, watching him in practice the other day, he'll lock on a receiver, and meaning he'll look at a guy a little too long, and that allows the defense to come over and really be able to cover the guys he's looking at.
2nd and 10. Love back in the backfield as Chris, with all kinds of time, loops it for the end zone, and it's incomplete. No flag on the play. Thomas in coverage. He's gotten his hands on the football twice here on this possession.
Yeah, Thomas that time matched up against Jay Tyler, trying to get another ball down the sideline, and he did a great job. He never got his head turned to see the ball to knock it away, so he was just relying on Tyler going up and trying to high point the ball, and Thomas drove his arm up through the ball and made a nice play.
3rd down and 10. Chris, 3 straight incompletions. With time as Irwin has it. He needed 10. He'll pick up 13 as he pushes the pile forward. And the drive continues after Stanford started in plus territory with this possession.
Well, Keller Christ needed a completion there, Roy. He was 1 of 5 to start the game with a touchdown, but that throw to Irwin right there really allows them keep moving the chains, and that's what they want to do. They're really concerned about time of possession. They're concerned about their 3rd down efficiency. David Shaw, the hallmark again of his offense, keep those chains moving.
Cardinal not entirely healthy for this season opener. A.T. Hall, the right tackle, out. Did not make the trip. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside also warmed up but not playing. Stripped up is Caden Smith, another one of those talented tight ends. Tom, that gives us a second, too, to think about how great the tight end position could be for Stanford this year. They've got some horses.
Well, they really do. Dalton Schultz, of course, a captain. He's a senior. And then we saw early on the touchdown by Colby Parkinson, who can obviously spread out wide as well. Caden Smith, who just made the catch. They really do have a lot of guys. And then when they go short yardage goal line, they bring in an offensive guard, Roy. Nick Wilson comes in, and he becomes the motion guy and the lead blocker.
High formation as Cameron Scarlett checks in for the first time. Stanford shows power. And Scarlett punched forward. Needed 2, gained 3. And the 7th play of the drive will extend it at least 4 more downs.
Well, in Stanford, of course, being a Power 5 school, playing a Conference USA team out of the Group of 5 in Rice here, they can lean on people. They have the bulk. They have the muscle. Stanford can start wearing you out. And that, again, is what Mike Bloomgren, the offensive coordinator, said to us. He's going to keep pounding the ball. They're going to keep running it. And then, of course, you can play action out of that.
Showing shotgun on 1st and goal. Stanford 75 yards in just 3 plays on its opening possession. Looking for the encore. Off play action. Weddington, the dance move, and dives ahead inside the 1. For the first time, Connor Weddington has made a grab today. A gain of 6. The freshman out of Washington.
Nice little wrinkle. Getting Weddington the ball in the slot. It's a short, safe throw for Keller Christ. And then he has a lead blocker in Dalton Schultz, the tight end. So, again, knocking on the door to score.
And this is the bread and butter of this offensive attack. Here's Schultz. Marks the fullback. Scarlett the handoff, pushes forward. That's a touchdown. The Cardinal on the board once again, showing power and coming through for 22 and wide. It's 13-0.
Just mano a mano. When Stanford gets in that short yardage goal line, they get low. They push people off the line of scrimmage. And Cameron Scarlett powers over for the score. But right there, it's just domination at the line of scrimmage.
Toner back on the field for another extra point attempt. Sophomore from Honolulu, Hawaii. And right between the pipes. Well, a picture-perfect start for the Stanford Cardinal. A picture-perfect afternoon here in the Sydney Harbor.
ESPN College Football, brought to you by Infinity. Empower the drive. And Hotels.com. Instant savings now, free nights later.
Well, it was a 15-hour flight from LAX to make it down here to Sydney, Australia, in beautiful New South Wales. And the Rice players trying to stay loose during that flight. You got to stretch just to make sure you're going to be okay after getting off that airplane, Tom. That's a long flight.
I stretch while I sleep.
It's another way to do it. A slow start for the Owls. They'll have it 1st and 10 from the 25. So we check in once again with our good friend Quint Kesnick.
Yeah, and I'm joined by Sean Maloney, who's on our team today. Thankfully, the big man, 10 years as a professional rugby player. He's a current commentator. We're close and up front and personal right now with these Stanford athletes. What are your impressions?
These blokes are enormous, but the similarities are very close to rugby union in that we've got these different body shapes, some a little shorter, a little squatter, some real big range of units as well. And that's what we're used to seeing played here at Allianz Stadium. Rugby union, a little bit of rugby league as well. It is so good having everyone in town. This week has been enormous.
As you watch this first quarter, what position do you think you would have played? What are you, good 6'5"? You could be as big as one of these tackles.
I'll take TE, and I'll tell you what, I'd hate to try and catch a guy like Love. He is lightning.
So you'd be a tight end because you can handle.
I can handle all day long.
What stands out about the flow of the game so far in terms of the pace? And if I'm an Australian fan, do I really understand what I'm seeing?
You do. We are a really, really switched-on sporting unit down here, and when it comes down to Super Bowl, it is massive. All across Sydney, pubs and clubs full to the brim, cheering whoever. They don't even have to have a side. They'll cheer and cheer and cheer all day long, and they'll do that here today as well.
A pub on every corner, a bookmaker on every corner.
It can be a dicey recipe, let me tell you. A real dicey recipe.
Where's the smart money today?
I was just going off the feedback you guys are giving this week, and I was with the guys that are behind us. They look pretty sharp early on.
Well, thank you, Sean. Will be joining us periodically throughout this broadcast, Roy.
We appreciate that, Quint. Somewhere, Brent Musburger with a nod to our broadcast today. 3rd down and 7 coming up for Rice after the shovel pass to Jordan Myers.
Well, now I know at least Sean's a Patriots fan, right? He's dialed in on the Super Bowl.
Yes, he is.
It's a tough 3rd down for Rice here.
And the Owls need to sustain something here after this slow start. And the pass looped towards midfield. It is out of bounds, incomplete. Aaron Cephas, the intended receiver, and Elijah Holder now healthy in coverage on the first passing attempt on this sunsplash afternoon by the Owls.
Rice is just not crisp on offense, Roy. I told you the other day when I watched them practice, and then we went out a second time, that they just weren't perfect. And you have to be perfect on offense. Of course, with a new quarterback, that's part of the struggles. You have to get the timing with your receivers right there, trying to get the ball to Aaron Cephas down the sideline. The ball actually drifted him out of bounds.
Wind will be a factor today, blowing from left to right as Fox will turn that punt over beautifully. Tyler retreats inside of his 20. And with real estate, a little shake and bake ushered out short of the 35-yard line. A punt of 54. 1st and 10 for Stanford coming up. Back here in beautiful Sydney, Australia. 1st down carry for Bryce Love. A short pickup. It'll be 2nd down. Allianz Stadium, the home of this year's Sydney Cup. Also the home of the Sydney Roosters. The Rugby League. Here down under, Tom Ramsey, Roy Philpott, Sean Maloney, Clint Kesnick down on the sidelines. A beautiful day for American football. A great start for 14th ranked Stanford is Chris. It's the shotgun snap. Buys some time. There's his tight end, Dalton Schultz. 3rd different tight end to catch a pass, including touchdown reception by Colby Parkinson. That's a 17-yard pickup.
Nice play, nice patience that time by Keller Chris, really standing in the pocket and finding his veteran receiver. Dalton Schultz, one of the captains, just continues to work open there. And nice representation of American footy.
American footy, that's it.
Yeah.
Good day. Offset eye for the Cardinal. We talked with David Shaw this week and his coaching staff at Stanford. And to a man, they were very confident entering this game, and obviously you can see why. Here's Bryce Love, already a 63-yard run. Another 1st down. So he's brought down to the 32. Quint, what do you got?
I thought it was amazing that he said he had no concerns. You know, every coach has concerns prior to week 1 and all the unknowns that they could see or experience. Said, I don't have concerns. I just need to see us to evaluate it. And he's big on efficiency and self-evaluation. I just thought that was a really positive sign for a coach to say that.
I think why he's able to sleep at night, Q and Roy, he has a veteran quarterback and he has a ton of veteran leadership on this team, as evidenced by 7 captains.
Play action looking for Schultz. Will dump it off to Scooter Harrington. Another positive pickup. Kama makes the stop. Well, the keys for David Shaw, it all comes down to efficiency.
There's no foul for an ineligible receiver downfield. The pass was caught behind the line of scrimmage. 2nd down.
He's 2nd down and short. 1st down efficiency, 3rd down efficiency, turnovers, and plus the red zone.
It's keeping it simple, right? You have to get good gains on 1st down. In order to manage the clock and keep the clock in your favor, you always got to be good on 3rd down. Turnovers is the easiest one yet, but when you get down to the red zone, you have to convert, and you don't want field goals, you want touchdowns.
Out of the power eye once again, Bryce Love. A spin move and another 1st down.
We're done, men, we're done.
As the drive continues for Stanford. Well, Rice this year led by a new defensive play caller in Brian Stewart, formerly of the Dallas Cowboys. Spent the last couple of seasons as the defensive backs coach at Nebraska. And we talked to him. We asked about taking over down in Houston with his Owls program. And he said he liked what he saw on film, the transition from the 4-2-5 to the 3-4 scheme. And so far, this defense not paying dividends the way that he division.
No, and they have to be able to get off the field at some point and make a stop.
The swing pass, there's Weddington. Second touch. A nice move inside the 10. Hit forward by Hanusa. Roe Wilkins will still be second and short.
Well, Weddington's an interesting guy. They didn't quite know where they wanted to fit him, whether at running back or slot or wideout. I think he's finding a home kind of as that slot guy. Really the same pass he got earlier in this quarter.
And if you're a fan of Stanford, old number 5 looks pretty good.
pretty dynamic.
This offense already 3 plays, going 10 yards or longer thus far. On this possession alone, and there's Bryce Love. His first touchdown, replacing Christian McCaffrey. And thank you very much. The Cardinals score once again.
Well, Bryce Love, again, just taking a slight handoff by Keller Chris, the quarterback, and they really got exactly what they wanted. They pull the guard around, and they get a nice hat-on hat again. And Bryce Love is so quick to the end zone right there, no one can touch him.
Just over 4 minutes, a 7-play scoring drive for Stanford, their third of this first quarter. And a 21-0 lead for the Cardinal out of the Pac-12. How about these numbers already over the century mark?
Well, he came in, he had 3 over 100-yard games a year ago, and to be over 100 yards with 6 rush attempts and an 18.5 average, are you kidding me?
Wow. What a start for Stanford, and what a start for us here at ESPN. Coming up Thursday, number 2 Ohio State and Indiana kick their season off right here with a college football megacast. Also have you covered on ESPNU, ESPN News, and ESPN3 with alternate productions to bring you the game in the biggest way possible. Coverage starts at 8 Eastern. Also, of course, on the ESPN app, which, by the way, works down under. It's been fantastic watching that this week.
I'll tell you what, that's another team right there having very high expectations, Ohio State and J.T. Barrett.
And Kevin Wilson returning to Indiana, trying to maybe get J.T. Barrett to the next level. There's a lot of storylines next Thursday.
Yeah, the intrigue, of course, Kevin Wilson, the former head coach at Indiana. The drama, love it.
Ellerby goes back deep for Rice. A backup running back. David Shaw, he was so confident. We mentioned that. You couldn't have dialed it up much better than this, the weather or Stanford's start. It's Bailey. Will knock that one out of bounds. So decent field position for the first time for the Owls. Rice, for those that are wondering, picked 5th.
Out of bounds. Kicking team. The ball will be placed at the 35-yard line. First down.
In Conference USA's West Division. So what needs to happen here for the talented freshman making his first start?
You know, Roy, you have to get some continuity on offense, and you have to get several first downs. Even if they don't score on this drive, to fall behind 21-0 in the first quarter against Stanford, you've got to start making plays. You have to start executing the playbook. It doesn't all fall on the quarterback's shoulders, right? They don't want him to single-handedly win this game, but the pressure mounts on this drive.
On first down, out of the shotgun, Blazeman with time and an open receiver and a pitch and a catch and a first down now in plus territory. A nice looking throw and a gain of 18 yards.
And throwing the ball on first down always changes things up. Going to the veteran tight end, Robbie Wells, and they're in a hurry up now.
Handoff goes to Stewart, now healthy, leading rusher for Rice last season, as he ducks out of bounds inside the 45.
It's not always first game jitters, too. I think a lot of programs across the country and internationally as well, you don't know what your tempo is. You don't know what full speed is. in game time, right? You got to get the game speed, and it's hard to get the game speed, especially in the first game of the season for anybody.
Billy Lynch told us our identity is going to be running the football. Got to be able to run it. It's cliche. So far, that has not happened for Rice. Walter in motion. And the near side handoff is Stewart. Move the sticks. Sam Stewart, 5'9", redshirt junior from Cypress, Texas. A gain of 8, a nice looking play for the Owls.
Well, and Stewart had some success back in late November of last year against the Stanford Cardinal defense. He had 13 rushes for 77 yards. And right there, he was able to reach the corner and then turn it up and make a nice gain. So they got 2 first downs. That's a positive sign for Rice. Now they need to make sure they do something in this venture into the red zone territory.
Wells in motion this time. We are seeing a faster tempo than we expected from Rice. Glazeman will show the option as Stewart hauled out inside the 35, a short pickup. We should mention as well our thoughts and prayers with everybody back in the Houston area and the Gulf Coast of Texas. This tropical depression, tropical storm Harvey barreling down on the Gulf Coast, and for these Rice players and coaches, that has been, well, not necessarily a distraction, but they have been focused on a lot of their family members back home this week. Yeah, and everything that's happened there.
Yep.
Usually a gain of 1, 2nd down and 9. Power set with Walter in motion this time. And Stewart dives across the 30.
Nice play that time by Peter Kalambai, the outside linebacker. Again, in their previous game back in November, they had success with that short option into the sideline. And a year ago, the plays were made by Solomon Thomas, the great defensive end who went 3rd round, or actually 3rd pick of the NFL draft to the 49ers. But I was talking to Lance Anderson, the defensive coordinator, before the game. I said, hey, didn't Thomas make the whole play last year? He said, yeah, he made him pitch and he made the tackle.
And that's what happens when you're the number 3 overall pick. Wells couldn't corral it. 5 seconds remaining in the first quarter. Rice. Critical play coming up in decision time now for the Owls. On 4th down.
Yeah, I think they stay on the field, go for it here. David Bailiff told us yesterday, he said he's not really wanting to kick field goals. They got to come away with 6 points on their ventures into the red zone. The ball just got to Wells a little quick right there. I think, again, what they do is move the pocket a little bit, give Glazeman a little bit of room and run pass option.
Empty backfield, low snap sent to Glazeman, tries to buy some time. A flag on the field. Well short of the first down. Lucky to get back to the line of scrimmage. Alfieri, Kalambai combined to make the stop.
Holding offense number 76. That penalty is declined. The ball will go over to Stanford on downs. 1st down, Stanford. That's the end of the first quarter.
Now here at the Sydney Cup, a fast start for the nation's number 14 team. Early touchdown strike from Keller Chris in the Cardinal. A 3-touchdown lead. Once again, already spotted his 21-point advantage. First down carry goes for 10 as Scarlett continues his good work this afternoon.
Well, Stanford doing good work in the first quarter, Roy. 186 total yards. Rice had 42. Plus 10. They're knocking on the 200-yard mark and just entered the second quarter. Pretty dominant at the line of scrimmage. Stanford's been really pushing the line of scrimmage. Those big linemen really leaning on the defensive line of Rice.
Pressed out of the shotgun with time, nearly picked off. It's Emmanuel Ellerbe, the first time we've called his name today, the Conference USA Defensive Player of the Year. Used his name this preseason. Probably should have had that one.
Yeah, we haven't called his name, and I expect we will. He had 7 games a year ago with double-digit tackles. He had 118 total tackles on the year. And when you think about how many tackles per game, 10.7 per game, it was sixth in FBS. Quite a feat.
So as a civil engineering major, wants to design stadiums when he's done playing football. As Love punches through once again, a nice stutter step. Inside plus territory. Hit forward inside the 30 by Justin Bickham. And what a start for Bryce Love, replacing Christian McCaffrey, a gain of 31.
And what they're able to do, Bryce Love is able to get to the second level immediately. Watch, hat on hat again. They come down, they down block. All of a sudden, Bryce Love, next level, and he's making moves, not on linebackers. He's putting moves on DB. So they get the linebacker blocked, and they have receivers downfield. VJ Banks, 19, missed him, and then Justin Bickham came over and finally got him down.
And what they're calling the year of the quarterback, Bryce Love may have something to say about that. Here's Scarlett. All kinds of real estate. Makes a nice move towards the end zone, and another Stanford touchdown. His second of this first half, this time from 29 yards out.
Again, great execution at the point of attack for Stanford, following the big left tackle David Bright, and behind the guard Nate Herbig, also known as Big Island amongst his teammates, hailing from Hawaii. But boy, Scarlett made it look easy.
I'm glad you finally mentioned the offensive line. We haven't given the Big Uglies the kind of love they deserve down under. They've had a great week of practice, according to David Shaw and also Mike Bloomgren, offensive play caller for the Cardinal. Could be the top offensive line in the Pac-12 by the time it's all said and done. 28-0 Stanford here in Sydney. A quick start for the Pac-12. Back in beautiful Sydney, Fort Denison, the Sydney Harbor. There's the bridge in the background. More on that later. The Opera House. There's so many great attractions down under. Tom Ramsey, Roy Philpott, 28-0. An impressive start for the nation's 14th ranked team. Quinn Kesnick and also Sean Maloney joining us on the field later here in the second quarter. All right, Rice producing 37 yards on its last offensive possession, at least something to build on.
Something to build on. 42 yards total in the first half alone, but it's been all Stanford. Look at that, 7 straight games, 25 plus points. And in this decade alone, with David Shaw at the helm, and remember, David Shaw had the groundwork laid by Jim Harbaugh, who really, I thought, Stanford ascended to great heights under Harbaugh, and then David Shaw really has amplified it and really turned them into a tough program.
Jet sweep as Glazeman operating out of the shotgun. A positive play, crossing the 30, a gain of 5, brought down by Sean Barton. Now, Chris, they're calling this a year of the quarterback. The Pac-12 is loaded with signal callers this year. He's gotten off to a good start, and perhaps still some work to do.
Well, think about this, Roy. So far, 23 plays run for the Cardinal offense. 10 of those plays have gone over 10 yards. So, A, that tells me the scheme is good, the execution is good, and the decisions are good.
Take the handoff to Cranston. Open is Stewart. Retreats to make the grab and shoved out of bounds in plus territory by Barton. Well, the wheel route was open that time for the Owls.
That's a heck of a throw that time by Sam Glazeman. Finding Sam Stewart down the sideline, their own version of the, I'll call it the Christian McCaffrey wheel route. They get man on man. They get the matchup they want with the linebacker, and then Glazeman able to throw it over the top of the linebacker.
I wonder if he's starting to settle down a little bit. A gain of 28 yards. Casey Toohill brings down the Rice running back for no gain. It'll bring up 2nd down and 10. You surprised Rice going tempo as often as we've seen them do so far?
I think they had to change it up a little bit. I think, if you play completely into Stanford's hands, you go back, you huddle up, you never put the pressure on their defense with your offense. So I like seeing Rice bring a little up tempo.
Glazeman lost the handle on it. Dive back to corral it near midfield. Let's see how they'll rule that play. They'll call it a fumble, so Glazeman heads up. to make sure he retained possession.
Glazeman, former baseball player, played a lot of baseball. He also had Tommy John surgery on that right elbow. And he's got a little whip in his arm, but that ball just squirted right out of his hands. David Bailiff, I'm sure he's saying, what the heck's going on?
A loss of 8 yards, 3rd down and a mile. All the way back to the 50-yard line. Owls have struggled on 3rd down thus far. And Glazeman does have some pretty good legs. He shows it there. Brought down to the 42 by Justin Reed. So a gain of 7, 4th down coming up for the Owls.
Well, Roy, and here, you know, every book in coaching will tell you to punt it. And they have, yeah, I was going to say, I think they thought about it for a second, but punt it, at least put Stanford inside the 20 and let your defense make a stop. Rice defense has to make a stop today and take the Stanford offense off the field.
Quarterback coach for Rice talking things over with a redshirt freshman as Fox sails this one out of bounds. Stanford football already up by 28 when we come back. Just one season ago, talented sophomore rushed for over 750 yards, and today, 3rd straight game going back to last year, Tom, over the century mark. He's been as advertised by the Stanford coaching staff.
Well, we talked about him as being one of the guys to fill the void of the departed Christian McCaffrey. He's done just that today. I think he's been so explosive when the ball has been in his hands, and he's embraced the role, no doubt.
Cardinal takeover, their own 15. And a 1st down pass sails out of bounds. Out of the hands of Keller Chris, looking for Donald Stewart. Bring up 2nd down. A great opening week for college football. The Pac-12 this year, Tom, could be the best conference in the country when you think about teams like Washington, SC, and Sam Darnold. A lot of people think that Mike Leach at Washington State, with Luke Falk returning, that they're going to make a run in the North. I happen to be one of those people. It's just a league that perhaps is under the radar again, but has so much talent, especially when you look at the quarterback position.
And see, I think they're on everyone's radar. I do.
Delay of game, offense, 5-yard penalty, 2nd down.
2nd and 15 coming up, but you look at some of the names. Pick your poison with these guys. All kinds of talent under center.
Yeah, they really are, Roy. I mean, you got a lot of guys in the Pac-12. You mentioned Luke Falk, Washington State, coming in 24. Stanford 14, Washington 8 with Jake Browning, Sam Darnold with a high ranking. And the reason I say they're on everyone's radar, when they got into the college football playoff last year as one of the 4 teams, Washington was legit.
We check in the studio with Chris Connor. Chris.
All right, Roy, they got a pretty good quarterback in the American as well. His name is Quentin Flowers, and South Florida got off to a really slow start tonight in San Jose before Flowers took it in. He has 3 TDRs. They've scored 42 straight points. It's 42-16 in the 4th.
That's another great signal caller as well. Quentin Flowers, I think, is not really a dark horse to be in Heisman contention come December, but he's going to put up huge numbers. In USF's schedule, you know, it's not compelling, but you know that the offense and the production is going to be there. So he will be in the mix on 3rd down. Wide open, the tight end again is Parkinson. His 2nd reception. That'll move the sticks. Stanford continues its good work on offense after a gain of 24. Banks the hit.
That's a great throw. 3rd and 10. You got a double seam route working to the right. Colby Parkinson right up the hash marks, and he stayed on his track. He really stayed disciplined, and Keller Chris with just a rocket shot getting the ball to number 84, and a little back shoulder kept him safe. Gets the safety.
No, he's 6'7", 229. I'm sure I could probably get him the football with that size. Think about his future with the Stanford team. Brought down in the first sack by this Rice defense. Ryan Womack was able to sneak in there. 44 in blue.
Womack comes into the game, 22.5 career tackles for loss. So he has been a guy coming off the edge, making plays, and right there he just beats the guard that tried to pull around. Brandon Vaneka tried to slide out, put a hat on him. He just got around him.
Maybe the first time today we've seen the benefit of the 3-4 with Womack playing at one of those outside linebacker spots. And for Brian Stewart, finally the defensive coordinator, something positive on film for his defense.
Yeah, it does put a little more pressure on the guards.
But Chris wasn't ready for the snap, brought down behind the line. All the way back at the 27-yard line. Womack got in there once again.
Ball just came up early that time, and Chris was not prepared to receive it.
Quint, what do you got down there?
Jesse Burkett was looking at the play clock, which was approaching 0. It was like 1 second. So he blindly snapped it to his quarterback to avoid the delay game penalty. Chris not ready.
So on 3rd and long, a conservative call to Bryce Love. Then again, it may not be. And there he goes, far side. Shoved out at the 50. He'll be short of first down yardage. eBay with the hits. With 7:55 remaining in the first half, let's see if David Shaw elects to roll the dice after a gain of 25.
JT eBay made a nice tackle there. You see Brian Stewart, the defensive coordinator, on the sideline, but eBay really hustled over it. Looked as though Love might get enough for the first down, but this creates a 4th down and 2 for Stanford right at midfield.
4th down, Stanford will go for it. 5 plays already of 20 yards or longer for the Cardinal. And Rice will call a timeout.
Rice University.
Step aside as well. 4th down coming up. 4th down and 3 coming up for David Shaw, the Stanford Cardinal. Here in Sydney, Australia. 28-0 our score. Nation's number 14 team in control. Big opportunity for Rice out of Conference USA on this play. Love in the backfield. Chris looking to air it out. Has his tight end. Oh, the ball came out late and tapped out of there by Justin Bickham. And now Rice will take over with good field position.
Yeah, Justin Bickham made a nice play on Caden Smith, the tight end, who ran a corner route, and he just punched the ball out. He punched it out. Bickham right there. Great job with his hands, stripping the ball from Caden Smith. Rice gets the ball at midfield.
1st and 10. The 48. And the Rice fans that made the trek all the way from Houston. Sam Glazeman, the redshirt freshman, under center this time. And the end around will net positive yards into plus territory, a gain of 4. As Casey Toohill will bring down Cameron Montgomery.
First time we're seeing Cameron Montgomery, the true freshman out of Stanford, Texas. Just so happens he's a 10 300-meter guy. So why not give him a chance at the jet sweep, see if he can get some yards. I like the last 2 possessions for Rice. When they went up tempo, they've been able to manage some yards. They just haven't been able to close out a drive yet.
For the Rice defense held for the first time. Another shovel pass, 3rd one of this first half. And no gain on the play. It's Kalambai. Going to bring that one down quickly.
A lot of misdirection in this offense. Billy Lynch, the offensive coordinator. I think sometimes, Roy, misdirection slows you down. I think sometimes you got to go vertical. You got to take your shots. But the key is establishing a run game. You have to get the run game, and that is in their DNA. They do want to establish the run game.
Billy Lynch, offensive play caller, taking over. He's been with this program now for more than 7 seasons. On 3rd down, the floater for Walter, in and out of the paws of Austin Walter, converted running back. His twin brother now plays running back in his old position. Alexander and Holder in coverage.
Yeah, Terrence Alexander making a nice play that time of the ball. Got his head around. Ball kind of hung up just a little bit. It's a tough throw down the sideline. it's not going to be a high percentage pass by any means.
Rice 0 for 5 on 3rd down. And how about some credit for the Stanford defense? Replacing Solomon Thomas has not been an issue thus far. Fox are very busy. Couple of quarters here in Sydney. Bounces that one into the end zone. Stanford football when we return.
ESPN College Football, brought to you by Heineken. Open your world. Enjoy responsibly. And Hyundai.
Now the Stanford team checking out the zoo here in Sydney earlier this week. David Shaw bringing the family in, having a great time. The Sydney Cup, and so far all smiles on the Stanford sideline. A 28-0 lead. Tom Ramsey, Roy Philpott, Quinn Kesnick, Sean Maloney down under. An interesting conversation with David Shaw just yesterday. He's calling the majority of the plays for this offense. I said, how do you do it? Is it off of analytics? Is it off of a gut instinct? And he said, well, it's a combination of both. It's more of an art than a science. Anytime I asked him, do you ever worry that emotion plays a part perhaps in some of your play calls? And he said, you know, that's not a word I think many people would use to describe me as being emotional. That's going to be defensive pass interference on VJ Banks. And he said, I'm more like a robot. So to answer your question, no, it never is an issue for me. And he said, actually, I'm trying to become more emotional at times.
Holding defense number 19. 10-yard penalty, automatic first down.
So instead of the 15 yards, just 10 on the holding against Banks.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I agree with the call, but there was some jostling on both receiver and defensive back there. But going back to David Shaw, and emotion always plays a little bit of a part of it, but he did. I thought he was humble and self-effacing there when he said, yeah, you know, I really don't get too emotional. As a head coach, you don't want to become too emotional.
Correction. The penalty is pass interference against the defense, number 19. That's a 15-yard penalty and automatic first down.
And Roy, the reason I disagreed with the call, it was an uncatchable ball. Irwin couldn't get the ball. He couldn't catch the ball. Therefore, there shouldn't have been a flag. But going back to David Shaw, I think he's very calculating in his play calling, but it comes from preparation and really good preparation.
Fake to Scarlett, the wheel route to the other side. And 22 finally corrals it. There he goes, brought down almost inside the 15. And now it'll be 1st and goal for Stanford. That's a gain of 55 yards, and Scarlett did a great job just to finally bring that pigskin in.
Remarkable that he stayed with the ball and didn't drop it. He tried to drop it. You only get credit for one catch there, even though you catch it 3 times. But again, David Shaw, knowing when he's man on the backside, and the linebacker wasn't even with Scarlett that time, but running the wheel route, which is a staple part of this offense.
High formation. Parkinson down. The intended receiver again. Some contact. No flag. He already has 1 touchdown reception today. It's 84 and white.
Nice play by VJ Banks. The corner just stripping the arm away from Colby Parkinson, and Parkinson was looking for a flag by the ref, but I thought it was a good play again by Banks.
So Parkinson retreats to the sideline. And Ryan Burns now your new Stanford quarterback. We wondered who we would see first between Burns and Costello. Turns out to be the former Stanford signal caller. Calls his own number, brought down just short of the goal line. JT eBay with the hit to prevent the touchdown.
The field is that the quarterback is short of the goal line. 3rd down.
Well, and that play for Ryan Burns right there, Roy, is really representative of where he came from in high school at Stonebridge High out of Leesburg, Virginia. He ran that particular play quite a bit, and he was really kind of the non-throwing quarterback that came into as a Stanford Cardinal quarterback.
Christ back in, and they'll bring in the extra beef with Nick Wilson, who goes in motion. Scarlett, an easy score, his third of the first half. And we've talked a lot about Bryce Love. How about Cameron Scarlett? A great job that he has done. A couple of rushing touchdowns and the 55-yard reception moments ago.
Well, they just get big play after big play, and then they're able to punch it in. And I think, again, going back to that red zone efficiency. But you mentioned Nick Wilson coming into the game, Roy, and from that left end, that wing position, he just collapses the entire defensive line of Rice, and it's an easy touchdown for Cameron Scarlett.
51 rushing yards, 56 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns for Scarlett. As we check in once again with Chris Cotter. Chris.
All right, Chris Cotter alongside Jonathan Vilma and Chip Kelly here. We've got the halftime report coming up. BMW halftime report. Bryce Love is having himself a heck of a first half, isn't he?
Outstanding. You know, we knew going in that they had to find someone to replace Christian McCaffrey, and I you know, the first carry of the game is a 63-yarder by him. I think he set the tone early.
I mean, let's give love to the whole offense. The offense is doing very well. Now, Rice, we're not going to say not a good team, but Stanford is capitalizing on a lesser opponent right now.
Very Shaw-esque, utilizing every tight end on the planet in the first half. We'll talk more about Pac-12 quarterbacks as well, and we'll look forward to Florida State and Alabama next Saturday night. Coming up at the half, Roy.
Chris, thank you very much. And I think we did count 17 players in the line of scrimmage at one point for Stanford, including 14 tight ends. That's how they do it out there on the left coast. Great start for the Cardinal. Also welcome to ESPN for Chip Kelly. We're talking Florida State and Alabama. Next Saturday, September 2nd, the Crimson Tide, #1 in the land this preseason, battling third-ranked Florida State. The brand-new Mercedes-Benz Stadium in the ATL. First time in college football history. Preseason #1 opens against a top 3 opponent. We'll have it for you over on ABC. Coverage starts 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 Pacific, and streaming live on the ESPN app. Bama, FSU. Boy, that'll get the hair standing up on the back of your head.
Two of the masters, Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher. Every game I watch with Jimbo Fisher, and I've called a few with Jimbo Fisher at the helm, I wouldn't want to go against him.
Blazeman incomplete. Tight coverage against Lance Wright, who's now healthy, recovering from a torn ACL. Murphy in coverage. Well, there's been a lot of talking after Alabama's loss to Clemson in the national championship game. Crimson Tide opened the year obviously #1, and Nick Saban's won 4 national titles in Tuscaloosa, so you can understand why, plus Jalen Hurts. A lot of times that #1 team finding success in that opening weekend. But for Florida State and DeAndre Francois, Derwin James is back. There's a lot of storylines in Atlanta for that one. Stewart hit hard and brought down 7 yards behind the line by Jordan Fox. Fox, a sophomore from Plainfield, New Jersey, a big hit for the linebacker. Give it to me right now. Bama or Florida State? Who are you going with next week?
I'm going to go Florida State. I think Jimbo Fisher, DeAndre Francois, I had him in the bowl game, the Orange Bowl. I'm always so impressed with Jimbo Fisher's game planning. I just think their attention to detail is remarkable, and Clemson broke the magic of Bama.
Experts thinking along those lines. Glazeman will float that one out of bounds under duress.
There's no foul for intentional grounding. The quarterback was out of the pocket when he threw the ball.
Kalambayi applying the pressure. Rice now 0 for 6 on 3rd down. My question for you is Florida State's offensive line, a weakness last year. Have they beefed it up enough up front to handle Alabama? Then again, Bama lost a lot of its defensive standouts.
They did, and I think, you know, what Dabo Swinney and Clemson, what they were able to do in the championship game, Roy, was really special. Now, Deshaun Watson, you and I can't agree on something. He was a really special player.
Stanford.
Fox will send it to Tyler deep. And after a nifty move, a couple of penalty flags on the field upon a 58 with an 8-yard return.
And I just think, you know, once it's out of the bag, there's film on it, and so everyone's going to share the film. Now, is Alabama a great team? Absolutely. Are they going to come in confident and number one, as they should? Yeah, they should. But Clemson's a champion until you knock them off.
During the return, illegal block in the back, return team, 10-yard penalty from the spot of the ball, excuse me, the spot of the foul, first down, Stanford.
Back to the field, Quint and Sean, guys.
I wanted to show our fans at home the difference in some of these footballs. Sean, what is this?
So that's a rugby ball. So that's what the Waratahs use here at Allianz Stadium. And what you got under the wing there, that's the Sharon. So next door at the Sydney Cricket Ground, that's where the Swans play. They hoof that up and down time and time again. Speaking to Jake Bailey, free kick off here, and he said he'd love to get his boot on one of those. Reckons he can send it.
I kicked this the other day with Jared McVeigh and Gary Rohan, who I'm hoping is going to be here in the third quarter.
Indeed.
Their accuracy kicking this was just
insane.
Amazing.
Yeah, and they can send an absolute mile as well. So this a whole lot grippier. That just sails and sails.
Yeah, this is very much like an American football.
Yeah.
The rugby, it feels almost plastic with stickiness to it.
There's a touch of stickiness with it. You know who has handled one of these often? Nate Ebner from the New England Patriots. Played a bit of sevens at the Olympics last year in Rio. He knows this very well.
10 years as a pro rugby player. You played in the second row.
That's right, second row.
Was the ball in your hands and in your control
often,
a lot?
So second row, you're the man jumping. You're going to the top of the line out. Well, it'd take a forklift on occasion to get me up, but yes.
It would take a forklift right now, I'll tell you that much. So you were a jumper. Who's the lifter?
The forklift, generally. Yeah, we need some heavy machinery. No, a prop lifts the second rower. So as I was saying earlier, Quinn, a number of these guys that make terrific props, and a couple of guys, great locks as well.
I would make neither a prop or a lock. I'd be more of a drop.
Yeah, that could work for you. I can see that working out for you.
And kicking this ball, what's that like? What's it entail?
Generally, you're only going to hit that around 50 metres. That's hard. So that's hard to send long distances.
That's
great for handling, though. Great for handling. Even you can hang on to this one, no problems.
Can you give me a pass?
Of course, I'll give you a pass.
After this play,
it's going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky with the one hand. I'm going to see how you go catching.
I'm going to put my mic down. You put your mic down.
Okay. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay.
There it is. Nice job, Q.
There you go. Don't go passing. Don't go passing. Your catching's great. Don't go passing.
I'd rather throw it overhand.
Guys, thank you very much. The Stanford drive continues. That was a 27-yard pitch and catch to another tight end, Dalton Schultz. And Chris has been silky smooth to start this season at the quarterback position. Yeah, you got Australian rules football down here. You got rugby. There's subtle differences, really major differences as Cameron Scarlett checks back into the backfield. It's been fun just learning about those sports this week for us and for both of these football teams.
Yeah. Maloney's not a small guy.
No, he's not.
I was down on the field with him. He'd probably be a tight end or a tackle. No offense, Sean.
Already 100 yards in total offense for Scarlett this time. Brought down by Bickham. Right at the line of scrimmage.
When you have two backs go over 100 yards in the first half of play, I would say David Shaw is feeling pretty good.
That's one way to do it.
Timeout. Stanford University, the first charge timeout of the half.
The Cardinal.
This will be a 30-second charge timeout.
Utilize their timeout here in Sydney. What a week it has been for these programs. And for all of us here at ESPN, you see the numbers thus far for both Love and Scarlett. Pick your poison between these two dynamic backs.
Well, these guys, Roy, have been really good. They've been filling the void of the departed Christian McCaffrey. And you got to really, I think, look at the Stanford offense in its entirety. They're going to run the ball. Their DNA is running the football. Bryce Love's done a great job. Yeah. Cameron Scarlett, they're going to pick up the pieces. But I think Keller Chris has had a nice start to the game, too, distributing the ball to a host of receivers.
Yeah, you know, if Stanford's going to live up to its own expectations, it's got to be a really good season for Chris coming off the ACL injury. Right on cue, fires a strike inside the 40. Bryce Love already a career high with 176 yards. And some laundry back inside the 20 of Rice, and we'll check the call.
Well, they're going to get Emmanuel Ellerbe, who tore the helmet off of, I believe it was Caden Smith. His helmet went flying and the flag went flying.
Has not been a clean first 2 quarters for Rice in terms of penalties. It's certainly something David Bailiff and company want to address before the second game.
After the play was over, unsportsmanlike conduct, defense number 58, he pulled the player's helmet off. That's a 15-yard penalty and automatic first down. That's number 58's first unsportsmanlike conduct foul of the game. The Stanford player may remain in the game.
So Ellerbe, the unquestioned leader of this Rice defense, perhaps frustrated with his start to his senior campaign. And there's his father looking on, not pleased with his son there in that sequence. Well, David Bailiff told us this week he wanted to see Ellerbe have some fun. Felt as if maybe he was putting too much pressure on himself.
Timeout, Stanford, their second charge timeout of the half. This will be a 30-second timeout.
Well, with 16 seconds left, probably a good call by David Shaw. He wants to dial up the right play.
And Tom, what is the play right now? Knowing you got USC on September 9th, do you show what you show? Do you stick to who you are, or do you throw some fake things out there that really aren't in your arsenal? I mean, I just think it's interesting how you call a game at this stage in the season, knowing that you have this game in control and you have a huge game coming up on September 9th.
Well, I think they're going to stick to their game plan throughout the game. But, yeah, I thought the greatest question yesterday was Roy Philpott asking a couple of the Stanford players, hey, you know, how are you looking ahead? Oh, no, we don't look ahead. We just have one game at a time. Well, you got SC September 9th. You might want to just look ahead a little bit. I think
Keller Chris with a straight face tried to tell us he didn't know who the second game was against. We had to call him out on that one, Keller. Come on. Take him in coverage, pass incomplete. 9 seconds remaining.
Chris that time trying to get the ball to Donald Stewart, but yeah, you know, players always look ahead. We're like, hey, we'll help you out. Here's your schedule. And they have SC on September 9th. They have UCLA September 23rd, and they play at San Diego State in between. So they're going to play all of Southern California in about 3 weeks.
Lump flanks out the top of the screen. Schultz, a hard collision. The ball came out. Pass is incomplete. With a few mistakes he's made, Bertrand in coverage. Laying the wood that time.
And I think the Stanford offense, just going back to Quint's original question, was that their offense is so vast, it really, they'll dictate to the defense. And see Keller Chris trying to thread the ball down the middle of the field. It's a nice low angle shot, trying to get the ball to Dalton Schultz. Nice play by the defense that time.
Now here's Chet Toner. David Shaw telling us this week that fairly comfortable back to 45 yards. This one from 40 yards out. On the way, and he'll sneak that one just inside the left upright. 38-0 our score. We said it mentioned.
And then 0 for 6 on third down. Rice just not able to convert today.
And the short kick fielded inside the 10. Brought back short of the 25-yard line. Oh, great to have you with us. Tom Ramsey, Roy Philpott, Quint Kesnick, and also Sean Maloney down under here in Sydney, New South Wales, Australia. Tell you what, a picture-perfect day in terms of the weather. Picture-perfect start for Stanford thus far.
Well, Stanford's doing it all right. They're doing it well. Rice has just had a tough time getting untracked, I think. And you come such a distance to play a game, and you want to be better on offense, definitely. Stanford has checked all the boxes so far. They're doing great on first down, good on third down, good in the red zone, and they haven't turned the ball over. So they're checking all of David Shaw's boxes thus far, and they have the lead to really back it up.
Rocky start for the redshirt freshman Sam Glazeman. Confusion, was trying to attempt the shovel pass, and fortunate to make something out of nothing. Brought down by Okereke. Quint, what else did you hear from Coach Bailiff?
Yeah, he was pretty positive, searching for rhythm on offense. And you guys spoke about it earlier, whether it's a huddle or an up-tempo. They've got to stop the self-inflicted wounds, whether it's false starts, delay of games, or drops. He was pretty encouraged with the play of his young quarterback, Sam Glazeman. And then defensively, got to win a one-on-one. Said we haven't won a single one-on-one all day.
Walter in motion on second down and short after the scramble, and on the jet sweep, there goes Walter. Shoestring tackle crossing the 40 by Brandon Simmons for a gain of 17.
Well, and Stanford is just sound, right? They're sound on defense, they're sound on offense, and I think that's part of the frustration that Rice feels as well. Right there, Austin Walker comes with the jet sweep and tucks it up inside, gets a nice game. I just haven't seen Rice explode off the line of scrimmage. You know, that time there, Walter puts his foot in the ground, he gets north and south. I think that's what I want to see more out of this Rice offense in the second half. Glazeman, he was fair. He was 5 of 10 in the first half.
Longest run of the day for the Owls. They'll lose yardage on first down. Stewart ushered out for a loss of 3. Justin Reed from his safety spot came up to make the stop.
And Roy, when Rice had some success in the first half, they went a little more up-tempo. And we do a lot of games back in the U.S. when teams thrive on the up-tempo, and it really puts the defense back on their heels. I think Rice, the one aspect they're missing, or at least today, when they've had success, it's been when they've gone up-tempo.
Empty backfield as Stewart motions out of your picture. A dangerous toss. Hits a turf. It'll be third down.
Well, when you go 4 by 1, they had 4 wides to the far side of the field. It attracts a lot of attention. You know, when you were swimming in the Sydney Harbor and all those sharks, and the guy was chumming next to you, it's kind of like, Roy, probably don't want to go swimming here.
You know, I thought I was going to go swimming at one point, making the climb up the Sydney Harbor Bridge. More on that later. Some 438 feet in the air. Great tourist spot down under. Rice 0 for 6 on third down in this one. Glazeman with a pocket collapsing, escapes, but not for very much. Justin Reed, so an active start to his second half, along with Sean Barton, combined to make the stop. No gain, and the punt team back on the field.
Well, Justin Reed, he get in nickel, he comes down and he becomes almost like a linebacker, and you see his ferocity right there going after Glazeman. Just a great play that time by number 8.
Jay Tyler back deep to receive this Fox punt once again for Rice. As the score indicates here to begin our second half, it has been all Stanford in Sydney. Fair catch of the 22, a punt of 39. Back with more after this. Now, for the first time ever, number 1 will battle a top 3 opponent to begin a college football campaign. Bama and Florida State. Well, the brands alone paint the picture for you there. Coming up 8 Eastern, ABC next Saturday night, 5 o'clock Pacific. Also, of course, on the ESPN app. Tell you what, it can't get here soon enough. The hype surrounding that game has been unreal.
You look at that game coming out of the gate, Roy, and you know, you fast forward to the end of the season and the College Football Playoff Committee. Does a game like that help or hurt you? I think it helps you.
Well, certainly from both sides. You could lose and then still have enough ammunition on the schedule to bounce back and to the College Football Playoff. Chris delivers a strike across the middle and tripped up close to the 50-yard line by Bickham. It's Trent Irwin, rather. His first catch of the afternoon, a gain of 30 yards.
Yeah, Trent Irwin just running the crossing route, puts a nice little move on his man, a little underneath coverage. And the Rice defense just haven't had the answers today. I mean, right there, Keller Chris with a lot of time to throw and then great protection. And he's able to find his man running scot-free and first down at the 50.
8th play of 20 yards or longer so far for Stanford. Chris, pocket collapses, fires it downfield. Stewart's got it at the 10. Now position that football perfectly. Thomas in coverage, the free safety. Gain of 40 yards on the play, just outside the 10. It's a first down for Stanford.
And that's great body position by Donald Stewart to go up, high point the ball, put his hip on the man behind him, and really protect the throw. Comes down with a great catch.
And his parents this week on one of the Sydney Harbor cruises we went on, and they were very excited about what number 8 is going to bring to the Stanford offense. Love back in there, a stutter step inside the 5. It'll be second down.
Well, part of their ground game is run between the tackles. Bryce Love lowering that shoulder. Bryce Love, pretty spectacular first half. Prior to that carry, 11 carries, 176 yards and a touchdown.
David Shaw said something interesting, again asking about Love and his potential. He said, you know, he's not only our best running back at this point, also going to be our best receiver. Think about what Christian McCaffrey brought to the table, a similar skill set, but lofty shoes to try to fill. And the jump ball completed to Parkinson. You know, our friends in LA are watching over at SC, and Parkinson, when he gets there inside the red zone, second touchdown grab of the afternoon. He is a dangerous weapon, as is that cannon.
Yeah, Colby Parkinson, all 6'7" of him, again using his body and just really kind of, you know, puts his hip on the defender, and it's going up for a rebound. And he got up and high pointed it. Another touchdown for him, 2 for the young freshman.
Almost 80 yards in just 5 plays. And the Cardinal leaning back quite nicely here in Sydney, leading by 45 down under.
ESPN College Football, brought to you by Axe. Find your magic. And Nissan, premier partner of the Heisman Trophy.
Now look at the Rice House enjoying Sydney, where you can have your cake and eat it too. In Oz. So far, not so good for Conference USA. 45-0 deficit. It has been all Stanford, as the nation's number 14th ranked program has lived up to the hype thus far. Tom Ramsey, Roy Philpott, Clint Kestick down on the sidelines along with Sean Maloney. Countdown has been on this entire offseason. Preparation for next week's games. Thursday, Ohio State, Indiana. Next Saturday, the Florida State, Alabama game that we've talked about so many times already.
Well, and I think another remarkable fact, ESPN televising 18 of the top 25 teams in the country. Quite a few games, lot happening today through the next 10 days.
Yeah, that's just in the first 2 weekends of the season, including this one. Montgomery in motion. Appeared to be a jet sweep attempt. Blazeman unable to handle the snap.
So let me throw a fun fact out at you there, partner. Rice hasn't been shut out in a game since 2000.
Could happen here today.
Spanning 198 games. And when you can't get the snap from center, ouch.
So many great games to choose from next week. And it's not just Saturday. It begins Thursday, and we're talking about Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, featuring all these ranked teams. We're going to get a good feel after the first week of the season. Perhaps who's the contender, who is not. We mentioned it earlier with Alabama, Florida State. The loser, assuming it's not a blowout, really doesn't hurt itself all that much. You just got to win out. Not easy, but still you're going to be able to bounce back and make a run at a playoff.
Yeah, I like when there's great competition on the field and two good teams square off against one another. And you know, don't take the for Alabama and Florida State, that is a marquee game, but there was a bunch on that last slate. I mean, there are games to watch, and they will have impact throughout the season.
Trying to spot Stewart in the flats. Pass sails high and out of bounds. 3 and out for Rice. How about Georgia Tech, Tennessee? Big year for Butch Jones.
Yeah.
Dedrick Mills, arguably the best running back returning in the ACC. No longer with the Yellow Jackets program. Blazeman perhaps shaken up a bit.
Yeah, Glazeman looks a little banged up, and we thought we might see his backup at some point, Jackson Tyner, who started last year against the Cardinal in late November.
Busy day for Fox. Thunderous punt to Tyler inside his 25. Of 50 yards, a return of 7. Stanford football on the other side. Well, what a performance for Keller Chris. 253 yards through the air. Returning from the ACL tear, 6-0 as a starter. Now is going to be 7-0 after this one. And Tom, a pair of touchdown strikes to Colby Parkinson, his 6'7" tight end / slot receiver.
Well, he has a lot in the utility shed around him, and Colby Parkinson is one more added component. I think he's going to be a tremendous player, but good for Keller Chris.
Hello, Ryan Burns, who just checked in for the second time, played a snap in the second quarter, and brought down quickly for a loss of 8 yards on his first snap of the second half, and this was right through the A-gap.
Zach Abercrombie, the nose tackle who only started the first 4 games last year and then was hurt because of a wrist injury, and he comes really barreling in on Burns that time and takes him down.
Well, that nose tackle position so instrumental in a 3-4 scheme. And that's going to be something that Brian Stewart continues to look at in his first year calling the defensive plays for Rice. Late handoff to Scarlett as Ellerby brings him down, and there's Keller Chris, his day apparently done. Last play went for a gain of 8.
And one more thing on Keller Chris, I thought he did a great job managing the game. Seeing the numbers on Chris, 253 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, but managing the game is a big component in this Stanford offense. While it's not glorious sometimes, getting to the right play at the line of scrimmage, when you have 3 play calls coming out of the huddle, it's remarkable that Keller Chris can do a great job like that.
Third down for Burns. Pass out of bounds looking for Weddington. Bickham in coverage.
Yeah, Tom, especially considering that, he didn't play in the spring, the knee injury in December. Just amazing work by their medical staff. He said he and Daniel Marks were basically cohorts in terms of rehabilitation, but they rely on the virtual reality machine, which gives them a lot of reps not on the field. And during the spring, he basically assumed a coaching role.
Yeah.
But, so I guess the mental reps you saw carry over today, perhaps.
The VR is great, but nothing beats game reps. And he had great practice, as Coach Shaw told us yesterday as well. His bowl preparation last year prior to the Sun Bowl and his injury, fantastic.
Sean Ellerby from his own 15. First time Stanford has gone 3 and out today, and a hard hit out of bounds. 1st and 10 for Rice, and of course the countdown continues for our 5-star Labor Day weekend of college football games. We'll have a special Sunday night primetime matchup for you September 3rd. It's on ABC. West Virginia, Virginia Tech, number 22 versus number 21. Coverage beginning at 7:30 Eastern. It's 4:30 Pacific, and of course streaming live on the ESPN app. As we look forward to that one, what a job Justin Fuente has done at Virginia Tech. Looking for a replacement at quarterback for Gerard Evans. And now for West Virginia, Dana Holgorsen. You know they can score. Will Greer, after transferring in from Florida, takes over. New quarterback is Jackson Tyner, redshirt sophomore. Started his first game of his career last year against his Stanford bunch. We'll see if this is a change of pace for the Rice offense. A deep handoff to Stewart up to the 30 for a gain of 5. Robinson with the hit along with Mustafa Branch.
Yeah, Tyner didn't have great numbers in his start against Stanford last year. He was 10 of 37 for 68 yards. His other 4 games he played in, he was 22 of 30, 73% clip in the 4 other games. It's kind of interesting, but Stanford had the answer.
Blazeman appeared to be shaken up a little bit on that last series. The rest at times today. Burns off the back foot, make that Tyner off the back foot. Up to the 45 and shoved out by Murphy. That's a gain of 15.
Laisman on the sideline. His final line today, 5 of 13, 48 yards. 0 for 2, 0 for 3 in the second half. He's 5 of 10 at halftime.
Rice now recording its 5th first down. A lot of credit there to the Stanford defense, minus Solomon Thomas. Play action for Tyner. The drive continues now in plus territory. Toohill will usher him out of bounds. Gain of 12.
Nice decision that time by Tyner. Really nothing downfield to look at, and he just tucked it under his arm and took off for the sticks, and it was a nice job there.
So you already gave me Florida State over Alabama. You have any other surprises this year, perhaps?
Oh, I have many. I have many. How deep would you like me to go in my little bag here?
Well, with 6 minutes left in the third, as deep as you would like.
Yeah, okay.
First down, confusion on the handoff, and picked up by Toohill. The first turnover of the afternoon for Rice.
The ruling on the field is the ball was fumbled and recovered by Stanford for a first down.
Casey Toohill, good young athlete out of Cathedral Catholic in San Diego, comes off the edge and really just is aware that the ball's on the ground, and he picks it up, scoops it. Tyner, the quarterback, there to bring him down. Otherwise, he's got a free sail to the end zone.
Well, my surprises this year, and we'll stick in the Pac-12 for a moment, the Stanford team in the North Division. Washington State, Luke Falk is back. Mike Leach is getting a little ornery up there in Pullman. He's ready, and I think he feels like his team this year is going to have an opportunity to really sneak up and do some damage.
So are you saying who in the Pac-12 North comes out? I'm
going to go with this team in a surprise. Now, Stanford was dominated last year by the Cougars and the Huskies. So they got to fix that. Is Weddington, a one-handed catch inside the 20, spinning to make the grab and a pickup of 34.
Great play by Weddington and a nice throw by Ryan Burns that time. And I'm going to give you my Pac-12 North pick in a moment here, Roy, after we watch the replay, because Weddington does reach behind, pulls it in left-handed. What a play. Well, we know he can be an inside and outside threat. That's proven. I think the winner of the Pac-12 North, the winner of the Apple Cup.
It could be.
Washington State and Washington both, they really manhandled Stanford last year and really gave them a great deal of business they couldn't handle. But I think the winner, and I think Mike Leach with Luke Falk, is loaded.
Burns looking for Stewart. That pass incomplete. Banks in the area in coverage. Well, Stanford is going to have to stay healthy this year, especially at quarterback. That was an issue. The offensive line, you talk to these coaches this week, and offensive play caller Mike Bloomgren, David Shaw, of course, they really like the hand that they've been dealt this year, and they are as deep up front as they've been in quite some period of time. Now, A.T. Hall did not make the trip down under, so he's got to get healthy. And there's some other things they're working with. There is a quiet confidence back at the farm.
As they should have. I think staying healthy, and Keller Chris really is he's going to be the catalyst to make this team go. Bryce Love, yes, he had a great game today and has been having a great game. I think the void, you look at what McCaffrey did for this offense the last 2 years, when one person is responsible for 42% of all yards from scrimmage. It's remarkable, but I think you need 4 guys to fill that void.
And that's been the approach. Stanford 3 for 5, 60% on third down in this one. Burns the backup, will lob this one towards the end zone, looking for Parkinson, and a late flag as Bickham in coverage was too physical.
I thought the flag came out a little late. I'm not sure. And sometimes receivers and corners just get tangled up. Looked like Parkinson's legs.
Holding defense number 7. This penalty is half the distance from goal. Out of
So, Roy, instead of interference, it's a hold on Bickham. So he must have his arm. Well, no. I think that was clean. It's called incidental contact sometimes. Remember, football, it's a collision game. Let's not forget.
Physicality happens. First and goal from the 7 for Burns and Stanford. Dorian Maddox, the new Cardinal running back. And Burns, the keeper. So the North Division of the Pac-12, you think goes to the winner of the Apple Cup. You give me Florida State over Bama week 1. 2 surprises in. What's number 3?
In the Pac-12, or are we going elsewhere?
Let's expand it.
I like in the SEC, and you didn't like this one when I mentioned it. I like Kirby Smart and Georgia, and specifically Jacob Eason at quarterback for Georgia. I had them open the season last year against Mitch Trubisky and UNC down at the old Dome in Georgia, and I really was impressed with Jacob Eason. I think he's going to be a superstar.
Second down, Burns back to the air, touchdown. Another tight end, Caden Smith with the honors this time, 82 in white. Sophomore out of Flower Mound, Texas. And the Cardinal pouring it on here in Sydney.
Well, and here's what I know. If you're Clancy Pendergrass, the defensive coordinator at USC, you're thinking, okay, Stanford goes to the red zone, and they like their tight ends down there. That's who they've been going to. It's the 3rd touchdown catch of a tight end today. Colby Parkinson with the 2 others. Caden Smith with his 1st of the season. Nice throw by Ryan Burns.
Toner back on for an extra point. Any jersey beginning with the number 8. Look out this year for the Cardinal. We check in once again with Quint and Sean, guys.
Trying to avoid the cannon we are here in the end zone. Australian rules football. This is Gary Rohan of the Sydney Swans. We've got Sean Maloney in the smoke.
In the smoke, the rice cannon just gone off
He's
again.
a rugby guy.
It gets me every time.
Gary came out to practice, Stanford practice the other day, and we were punting the ball around, and I was blown away by your accuracy. Can you kick the ball to Sean and give the American fans an idea of why we are seeing so many Aussie kickers in the NFL and college football?
Nailed it. I won't try. Actually, I'll just toss it back to you guys.
Okay.
There you go.
It's a nice underhand toss
there, you
there,
go.
Sean.
On a platter.
I love the bounce.
On a platter.
Now, as you back up,
don't make me run.
The accuracy remains on target.
I'll move for you guys. And there it is.
Look at that, right in stride.
And what about the catch? Hey, Quinn, what about the catch?
So when I was watching the juniors, the 12-year-olds, just the punting, the accuracy, the repetition.
And the handball, too.
And the consistency.
Oh, we're going again.
How do you do it, Gary?
I just hold the punt. The laces go towards wherever you want to target. Make sure you drop it as low as you can towards your foot so it doesn't make any angle, so it makes it easier to kick. And make sure the ball spins backwards so your teammates is easy to catch.
Why don't you kick a spiral?
It's more accurate to kick the drop punt, where every now and then you'll hit the spiral to make it go a bit further, but it's more the drop punt you hit your teammate and make it easier for them to catch.
Take another one. And these athletes can kick right-footed, they can kick left-footed, and they also can make the ball move depending on your drop, correct? How do you do that?
Yeah, that's right. So we have a snap or a check side, or either way, which way you want to snap the ball to go, a snap to go that way, or check side to go the other way. And
nice hands, Quinn. We'll make an AFL player of you yet.
Last one. Show us a little movement on a ball head, or a simulated
snap. Do me to a snap.
Snap.
So a snap is just going to bend it around.
There it goes. No catching.
Look at
that one.
Like a golf. That's my hook.
Yeah, pretty much.
Gary, thank you. Congratulations on the big win last night.
They're on the way to the big time.
Your kicking is different in rugby.
My kicking is like your passing.
Very good, Sean. Very good.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Well done.
Number 21 for Stanford. His helmet came off. He has to leave the game for one play.
As we were talking there, Malik Antoine almost had a pick six. It was delivered right into his mitts. Couldn't quite corral it. Rice now facing a third down. You know, you've seen the rugby style kick a lot instituted into the sport of football. I mean, American football, that is. College and the pros. They'll try to angle those punts towards the goal line. And you can get a backspin on it, or the low line drives. Walter across the middle. And a nice move into plus territory for Rice for a rare occasion today. That's a gain of 15. And a hit by Alexander. But I'm going to see more of that because it creates confusion at times simply with the bounce of the ball defensively.
Yeah, having the ball kick back or rotate back, it's big. If you're punting it, right there, first down for Jackson Tyner to Walter, as you mentioned. That's a simple throw and catch. Walter just sitting down in a zone window, and that's as simple a first down as they had all day.
Play action for Tyner. Stewart brings it in and tiptoes down the sideline. He's going to lose yards. And a late flag as well as Alexander ushered him out. .220 remaining here in our third quarter. For Stanford, you expect to see a lot of reserve players. And for Rice, you're just trying to build some kind of momentum for week 2.
After the play, personal foul, unnecessary roughness, defense number 11, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Alexander perhaps a little mouthy after that sequence.
Well, and Roy, I think you want to get on the board too, just for confidence alone. See Stewart tiptoe, then he gets jarred. Gives him a little bit of the verbal business. Referee within earshot, flag comes out.
From the 33 as Wells goes in motion. Rice trailing big. Trying to avoid the shutout for the first time since 2000. A hard hit on the backup quarterback Tyner as he spins for a gain of 4. That was Jordan Fox.
Yeah, and I think the Stanford defense has put on a good show today. I think this right here, you're in 2-down territory to get, well, you're actually in 4-down territory to get the first down. My apology there, but I think if you're Rice, your goal here is to finish the drive, get points, and you don't want to settle for a field goal here.
Owls just 3-9 last season. David Bailiff, this is his 11th year with the Owls as Tyner scampers out of bounds. He's won the title in Conference USA a couple of times. Most recently in 2013, so he understands what it takes, but the natives get restless making this kind of trip and struggling at this level, not to mention 3-9 last year.
Well, and I'm sure they wanted more of a showing in this particular game against an opponent that they didn't face all too long ago. It was really their last game of 2016. They played at Stanford, and granted it was in a rainstorm primarily in the second half, but you know, I thought Tyner, having started the game last year, he might have had a little more ability to win the job. That ball just sails out of bounds.
He was trying to hit Asupa, who slipped and fell as he made his cut on his route. Dylan Jackson applying the pressure. Rice a bit unlucky there, now facing a 4th down.
Yeah, and football is a great game with the attention to detail, right? You got to put in the work in the offseason. You got to come into fall camp prepared for a long grind. And, you know, both teams, talking to the coaching staffs, really felt as though they had productive and positive training camps, and one is showing today and the other one has yet to show it, although they're playing against a superior team.
Owls need 7. Tyner with time lofts it towards the end zone and overshoots his intended receiver Aaron Cephas. Perez nearly got to him before the ball was released. And coming up Thursday, number 2 Ohio State, led by new offensive coordinator Kevin Wilson, travel over to Indiana to kick off their season, and it's a college football mega cast. Have you covered on ESPNU, ESPN News, ESPN3. Coverage begins at 8 o'clock Eastern. That's Thursday, and also on the ESPN app. You can watch that game however you desire to watch it. I love the mega cast, and I love the fact we're doing it that Thursday night. Film room over on ESPN News, the Homers broadcast. They didn't ask us to do that one, did they?
I like the all 22. Actually, you can get that on the app.
New quarterback for the Cardinal, KJ Costello. David Shaw told us this week he perhaps has the highest ceiling when comparing him to Burns. And a quick pitch and catch there.
I'd say KJ Costello had a pretty productive high school career. Coming out of Southern California, down at Coda de Casa, Santa Margarita Catholic. He went for over 8,200 yards and broke Carson Palmer's school records. Carson Palmer, is he a Hall of Famer in the NFL? Maybe.
Maybe not.
Wow, kind of quick.
End of the third quarter.
Into the third quarter.
Your city, I can't overemphasize the city of Sydney, just as ingratiating and welcoming as you could be to both teams, both programs, and one really taking advantage of the day.
Donald Stewart with a grab, a late flag on the field back at the 38 as VJ Banks hauled him down. It's a gain of 19. We'll check the penalty.
Ineligible receiver downfield, offense, 5-yard penalty, replay, second down.
Late toss by Costello.
I like Costello. KJ Costello was right in the heat of the battle. I think if anything happened to Keller Chris, that KJ Costello may be the starter in lieu of Ryan Burns. Ryan Burns had a good shot at the job last year. And he won the job from Keller Chris. I think with Chris at the controls, though, they do a great job. And KJ Costello, as you said, I mean, he has a lot of upside.
With time. And the catch made by Smith. A leaping grab over the defender. eBay in coverage. Well, Parkinson's almost at 100 yards through the air and 3 touchdowns. Smith, Harrington, Schultz. It's a gain of 28, have also done a remarkable job.
And again, the ball completed to a tight end, Caden Smith. I asked Brian Stewart, the Rice defensive coordinator, I said, hey, what package would you rather see? The big package with all the tight ends or the spread package with receivers? He said, I'd rather see the spread. And I think I know why now. It's become very clear. The tight ends at Stanford, they're deep, they're fast, and they attack the ball.
And a 2-yard pickup on first down, Quinn.
Roy, they like to call themselves tight end U. And I spent some time with Scooter Harrington, who's like 4th on that list this week. Kid from New England, and I said, how many schools could you have considered to play tight end? He says, there's only about 30 schools right now that actually use a tight end. 12 of those, about a dozen, in an NFL-style tight end. That's what you get here at Stanford. That's why continually they bring in the top 1 or 2 tight ends. It's really a great prep for the NFL.
Line of scrimmage U, I think, would make a lot of sense for Stanford as well.
That's a great point, though. I mean, a lot of teams don't even have tight ends.
Another reception by Smith. Caden Smith being featured on this possession. It's a gain of 17. Banks brought him down.
And I'll say this, everything goes in cycles with football. I mean, you'll see the tight end. He'll emerge back in many, many programs. People will get tired of the spread, this up-tempo, this zone read offense all the time. Line up, and here's the great, math of David Shaw. Hey, listen. I'm just going to keep the chains moving. I'm going to eat up the clock, and then the game will be over, and we'll have the lead. And in many, many, many of his wins, that's the recipe.
Costello simply had to get rid of that football as quickly as possible. Now 3 of 4 on this possession for 54 yards. Uretsky
grounding. The pass was across the line of scrimmage.
Applied the pressure for Rice.
You know, Roy, one of the most remarkable stats coming into this game, I mean, Stanford under, you see the Rice Owls defensively, points allowed. That was last year, over 500 yards, and 580 today. Ouch. Of all of Stanford's wins coming into this year, They have 74 wins against FBS opponents this decade. Only one team has more, 79. Who is it?
Bama.
Bama.
Well, the curious conversation, I think, with Keller Chris, he's going to improve to 7-0 as a starter. The naysayers out there would say, okay, that's fantastic, but who have you beaten? Because we saw Ryan Burns last year have to face the likes of Washington and Washington State. So this next game for Stanford at SC is going to really tell us a lot about Chris and what this team is capable of this season.
Yeah, they beat SC. It was up at the farm last year. In their 3 Pac-12 losses last year, they did not rush for over 100 yards. Washington State, and Colorado, they were all under total yards rushing. They were under the 100-yard mark.
Looking for Stewart. And shoved out of bounds. Pass is ruled incomplete. Bickham in coverage. Costello's looked impressive. I mean, he's throwing the ball on a frozen rope out there, and he doesn't seem to really be bothered by some of this pressure he's seen.
I like Costello. The ball comes out quick. He's got a great arm and a really quick release, and that will get him. What I see early in the season with a lot of quarterbacks, the ball just doesn't come out quick enough. Guys want to make sure it's a clean picture and a clean read, and Costello today, he looks sharp. The ball's coming out quick.
Toner will attempt his second field goal of the afternoon. Connected from 40 yards out his first drive. This one from 34 on the right hash, and he bangs it home. 55 points on the board for Stanford. Taylor, thank you very much. Number 3 versus number 1 next Saturday night, September 2nd. DeAndre Francois, Jalen Hurts, Florida State, Bama. Coverage begins at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, also on the ESPN app. First time in college football history. Preseason number 1 team facing another program from inside the top 3. And after the Stanford field goal, well, the fight is over. No, the fight here, it's a double nickel. 55-0 Cardinal rolling over Rice. An impressive performance. Tom Ramsey, Quinn Kesnick, Roy Philpott. A couple of Cal fans maybe rooting for Rice today. They don't have much to cheer about.
Bay Area strong right there. Maybe they just kept the shirt from last year when Cal was here. What do you think?
Yeah, they played Hawaii down here.
Could have been.
Well, the Bears perhaps not looking forward to the start of the season. Expectations not high in Berkeley this season. Granson in motion. More confusion on the jet sweep handoff. Laisman back in there at quarterback. Well, how would you evaluate the film for the redshirt freshman as we take another look?
Well, I can evaluate the game in real time. If I were to go back and watch the film tomorrow, it wouldn't be pretty. But today, I know this. As a quarterback at any level, your main job, protect the football. You gotta keep the ball safe and have it on the ground. It'll drive your offensive coordinator, Billy Lynch, it'll drive him crazy. And really, just to be productive in any offense, you really have to just protect it, do the right things, make good decisions, and get the ball up the field.
Stewart crunched crossing the 25. Malik Antoine has been all over the field in this second half. The stop approaching 10.5 minutes to play in this one.
I think the difference today, I think Stanford's defensive front 7 did a great job. I really think they stymied the offensive line of Rice, and so give a lot of credit to those guys up front. Harrison Phillips had a nice day, and then you look at what Bryce Love has done. He alone, 180 yards of offense, and Rice has had 141.
A productive afternoon down under. Stewart get a first down. He's ran hard today, now back and healthy after the injury a year ago. Drive continues for the Owls.
You know, in Stanford, it'll be a sobering reality when they get back from this long flight and realize, okay, yeah, we got a couple days off, maybe one, and you have to go down to Southern Cal and play the Trojans in the Coliseum, and it's a tall order. They're playing well. Sam Darnold, one of the best throwers in the country.
Nice pass from Glazeman, incomplete.
And SC was not happy with their loss at Stanford last year. Not at all.
Well, the good news for the Cardinal, you're not playing next weekend, so you get that weekend off. You get a little bit of time to recover after the jet lag, and it is severe. 15-hour flight basically back to SFO. That'll come early tomorrow morning. And really, you got to believe, Tom, they'll emerge from this one relatively unscathed. Third and short. That'll be good enough to move the chains. But to me, it comes down to that game against SC. We talked about it. Washington State and UW as well in November, about 6 days apart. Those two teams took Stanford behind the woodshed last year. That can't happen this season to win the Pac-12 North.
Well, you got to run the football in the Pac-12. As much as it's a glamorous conference with great quarterbacks throwing the ball all over the yard, you have got to run the football and control the line of scrimmage. And number 4 USC, they run the ball well too, and they will come attack and play great defense right behind it. So that will be a huge challenge out the gate for Stanford.
Washington sacked Stanford 8 times last year, and then a few weeks later actually covered the Washington State at Stanford game. That was the low point of Stanford's season. They bottomed out with a 4-3 record. Their offensive line was in shambles. Their corners were hurt. From there, Keller Chris became the starter, and they rallied off with 6 straight wins. So I think if they can stay healthy, momentum certainly plays a big factor in some of the conference play.
I agree. I just think you have to run the football, and it gets messy at the line of scrimmage sometimes. But I think Stanford is completely committed to running the ball down people's throats this year.
Austin Trammell, a jet sweep near side, shoved out by Antoine.
Tom, my biggest question today from field level is Stanford's D-line down the road against a more powerful offensive front. There are outside linebackers and DNs that caught my eye in practice, but there's a certain lack of beef inside with this scheme and on this team that kind of concerns me long term, because I love the linebackers and I love the secondary.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think after talking to Lance Anderson, he alluded to the depth at D-line. And, you know, when you had a player like Solomon Thomas from a year ago, Solomon Thomas was, I mean, he's the best defensive tackle in the game last year. And as evidenced, I mean, Myles Garrett went number 1 to the Browns, but he's an end. Thomas plays inside, plays at 3-tech, and, you know, going number 3 to the 49ers, guys like that just don't come around often. And, you know, he got double teamed a great deal and still made plays. But I think you're right on, Quint, in that, you know, if there's any deficiency, it is in the defensive line for Stanford.
First down and 10, approaching 7 to play in Sydney. Play action for Glazeman. Will float this one to his fullback. Masupa, 5'11", 230, a leaping grab. The drive continues. It's a gain of 22.
And the nice thing when you play a 3-4 base, you can actually sink down one of your linebackers and kind of, you know, I like number 21 who's in the game right now, Curtis Robinson, and that was a nice pass and catch that time by Rice. But Curtis Robinson, keep an eye on him, number 21 for Stanford. I think he's going to be a playmaker for the Cardinal down the line this season. He was a true freshman last year. Not a lot of true freshmen play in that defense, and I think high expectations for 21.
And Robinson right on cue. Bats that one down.
You know, he's big enough, you know, 6'3", 235. He's big enough. You can play on the end of the line of scrimmage. He can play the edge, and he can hold the edge if they come his way. So that's what I like about him. He jumped out at me at practice the other day. I'm like, Lance, wait, who's that guy? Who's 21? I want to know more about 21. And He had 2 sacks last year in the Rice game, so he came out of his shell last year.
Great conversation this week with Lance Anderson. He's been at Stanford for 11 years. Defensive play caller. Great energy. I told him it sounds like this is your first day on the job. You're so excited. There goes Walter, and Rice is on the board. And how about this crowd coming to life late?
Fire up that cannon. Look out, Sean Maloney. The cannon's going to blast again.
Austin Walter, twin brother Aston, a running back. It's a 23-yard touchdown run. Rice on the board. They'll avoid the shutout. That streak was in jeopardy, not since 2000 of the Owls. Been shut out.
Look out below. Looks like a couple mad scientists down there stuffing the muzzle of the Rice on the board. Stanford 55-7.
Now, one of the great attractions in Australia, the Sydney Harbour Bridge climb, some 438 feet into the sky. I mean, really an incredible, exhilarating climb. Quinn Kesnick and I took the liberty of attempting that climb yesterday. Our guide Richard told us so many great stories, and really you're just hanging there by a thread at times. An incredible occasion. We really enjoyed that. And Quinn, I'm still not sure that I've quite recovered from it, but if you're coming to Australia, what a great thing to do. It's one of the great attractions here.
It's exhilarating, invigorating. It's a little scary, especially the first third where you're looking down. I'm like, don't look down, don't look down. And you're looking down, you're up, you know, a couple hundred feet. But our director, Steve Turnberger, did it, so I had to take the challenge and do it ourselves. But Richard, our tour director, reminded me a little bit of Mick Jagger. And they were joking with him that he had worked on the bridge, which was built in the 1930s, which wasn't true. But he told us so much about not only the bridge, but the entire city. And that's really what I gained the most from it. Plus, the views are just amazing.
I thought you guys looked kind of cute in your onesies together.
The space suits, maybe not the most flattering attire, but we were able to pull it off. Eric from Indiana, one of our camera guys, working hard today. He made the climb. And Justin from Alabama also making that trek. 16 people died building that bridge back in 1932. They originally thought it was going to hang around for about 100 years, but they over-engineered it. That bridge is supposed to stay exactly how it is for another 500 to 600 years. Yeah. That was the kind of knowledge dropped on us yesterday. So for coming to Sydney, what a great idea.
I'll come back to that.
That's right. Where were you yesterday? We were looking for you.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
All right.
you were at the fish market having lunch. Let me tell you, if you come to Sydney, you got to have lunch at the fish market.
I was. Indiana Audra's in town, and yeah, fish market was awfully good.
They bring in fish between midday, and there's more sushi and fresh fish there. Stuff that I've never even seen, including live sea urchin. Just like a rainbow of colors.
It was great. I went on the Quint recommendation wagon.
1st and 10, 5 minutes remaining here in Sydney. Costello with all kinds of time. Fires that pass wide. It's incomplete. Well, the folks here in Sydney have been so gracious in welcoming us, our crew, both of these programs, Tom Ramsey, Roy Philpott. And, you can't say enough about what this experience has been like. And for these two teams, most of these players haven't been out of the country before. So, the Sydney Cup has been an incredible success.
Really is. Really has been. 2nd year in a row for the Sydney Cup. And I think from an overall, the city has been fantastic, very welcoming. And it really, truly, it has been a great experience for both programs. Rice and Stanford, I know that they've really enjoyed it. The harbor cruise, when they had dinner, they couldn't talk enough about it. They visited the zoo, and I believe they did a little community service as well. And really, I think, benefits Sydney, and it just opens up more ways for American football to be seen across the globe, which I always think is great. And being the first day of college football kicking off, Roy, I mean, great place to kick it off.
Well, the future of the sport, as you take a look at the itineraries, the total miles traveled, is probably going to be international. And you try to take American football overseas. It's happened at times with varying degrees of success, but you're going to see more of this kind of thing moving forward.
Well, the NFL's done a great job, right? Opening up London, playing games over there, down in Mexico City. And here in Australia, I really think they love American football. Talking to Big Sean Maloney before the match today. I'll call it the match on the pitch.
On the pitch. Well done.
Australians really, they love sport. And so American football blends right in. And, you know, rugby is kind of the king of the hill here. But American football is quite the game. And I think there's a lot of spectators here today enjoying the game and will be in future matches as well.
30,000 were expected in Allianz Stadium. It seats about 40. The Sydney Roosters, a rugby league down under. Weddington, second reception in as many plays. Cricket grounds are right behind us. The Swans play just across the street. A lot of questions this week from the citizens here in Sydney just about the sport and exactly how it's played. Here's a look at the cricket grounds. Talk about an impressive facility. Well, they run about half of a marathon during some of these games in Australian rules football. It's so physical. Rugby obviously as well. Half a marathon. I don't think I could do that right now if you paid me.
No.
In fact, I know I could.
Is that one of those stickers on your car that says 13.1? Is that? Should I get one?
Maddox a short pickup. Third down. Time winding down. Approaching 2.5 to play. No major surprises today. Maybe Colorado State pouring it on Oregon State. Fort Collins, that was a little bit of a surprise perhaps. And
yeah.
South Florida scoring 42 unanswered. San Jose State, Quentin Flowers, we know what kind of damage he can do this year at quarterback. Question is next weekend. Thursday, Ohio State, Indiana, Bama, Florida State, West Virginia, Virginia Tech, all those great matchups. It'll be here before you know it. Costello flush straight ahead with some daylight towards the end zone for the touchdown. Rice player injured on the play. Appears to be Brandon Douglas Dotson.
KJ Costello, really great decision that time. Making a 25-yard touchdown run. I mean, that is a great decision by him to pull it down. Let's have it one more time. Just go ahead and pull that thing. The Rice Owl pulling the can.
That breaks some kind of unwritten rule, doesn't it? After the Stanford touchdown, that was a 25-yard scoring scamper, by the way. $61 points on the board for Stanford in its season opener. And Toner will make it 62. And one more fire the cannon. 62-7 the score. Costello with the honors, his first touchdown. Good look at Manly Beach, just across the harbor here in Sydney, Australia. Down under. What a week it has been. Tom Ramsey, Roy Philpott. Here in the booth, Quinn Kesnick, Sean Maloney down on the sidelines. Beautiful weather today. As it's been most of the week, it's wintertime here in the southern hemisphere, so it's been quite chilly. Temperatures in the upper 40s. Not as cold as this Rice offense has been for the better part of these 4 quarters.
Yeah, definitely cooling off period for the Rice offense. They need to heat it up just a little bit.
Now we check in again with our good friends Quint and Sean.
I'm glad they called a timeout, Sean. We played pro rugby here for 10 years. tackling demo.
Do you want one of those right now?
You know what? Well, there's such a fascination in the States with rugby tackling.
Sure, okay.
And taking the head out of the equation, safety for kids.
Yep, I guess more so what we do a little bit differently down here, which you're taught at a very, very young age, particularly in cover defence, is to put your head on the trailing side.
Okay, so if I'm running,
so if you're running that way, if you're down, you're heading for the house.
Yeah.
My head is always down here on behind, and I'm chopping you down there.
What are the
head
targets?
Below the hip, so shoulder below the hip. You want to keep your head out of that hard area, otherwise sleep time.
Yeah, I got high knees. I'm taking your head
but
out.
I'm hitting you down there.
Yeah.
You're in the turf.
And
you're deep under.
And wrap with both hands?
Always both arms. Nice and tight. Bring it in tight. And that's the end of it. That's how you do.
What have you seen out here in terms of American tackling versus rugby tackling?
The front on is super impressive. I mean, that is initially really good. That's not bad, huh? Throwing yourself, that'll work. That'll work in any code.
Sean, thank you so much for the entire game's worth of knowledge.
Next time around, next year, you and Tom and Roy, you come early. I'll take you surfing over in Manly, okay?
Oh, great.
You come
we were
a week
Manly.
early.
We didn't get to surf
I'll
there,
take you surfing next time, boys, okay?
That sounds fantastic. Guys,
Sounds
great job.
Cheers,
great
mate.
job. And Sean Maloney, Quinn Kesnick, great job all week. And for our hardworking crew, similar sentiments. Our producer, Brian Yarrow, Steve Turnberger, directing Down Under. Spotter Tommy Ross, statistician John Tobias. Everybody that made the trek. It is a long one, a 15-hour flight from the west coast of the States. Surfing going on right now. We're at Manly Beach. Could be our director right there. Berger. Is that Berger?
Yeah, it's winter time, but it's always surf time down here. It may be winter, but it's still 60s, mid-60s during the day.
Well, the spirit of this country really engulfs you. It really did that for our crew. Just the hospitality we talked about a couple of times, but overall good vibes here in Sydney. There are plenty of them.
I think the only thing I'd recommend is just don't go driving.
Perhaps. Countdown is on. Our 5-star Labor Day weekend of college football. A special Sunday night primetime matchup. It's coming up September 3rd. West Virginia, Virginia Tech. Dana Holgerson, Justin Puente. Their cast of characters getting set to battle. 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. ESPN app. And of course, that one coming to you live from FedEx Field, home of the Redskins. Coverage over on ABC. Fun time of year. You know, the week leading into the first games, I think for coaches, for broadcasting geeks like ourselves, for players, it's the most exciting because you haven't faced any adversity yet. You wonder, is this our season where we get it done? You can certainly feel that here today.
Absolutely. And you know, Stanford, I think, embraces that high expectations. I think looking back on their season last year, there were a couple misfires, and this year they have a chance to kind of right it. And we heard that from Harrison Phillips, at nose tackle. One thing he did say was, hey, we came in as freshmen. When we came in, we had a lot of success, and it's almost like their duty to kind of carry it through and to get to the next level. And the next level truly is the college football playoff.
And they said that to a man. That's the one box we've yet to check. And most people forget Stanford under David Shaw has won 11 games or more 4 times in 6 seasons. So they literally have done everything but make the playoff. We're going to find out a lot about this program in 2 weeks at SC. Thirty seconds remaining. Glazeman in his first start. Hit forward to the 45. Nobody has been as consistent as David Shaw and Stanford, exception maybe of Alabama and more recently Clemson, and you see the 11-win campaigns under his tutelage.
Yeah, and really what jumps out to me too, in those 6 seasons he's been at the helm, they've been to 6 bowl games, and you know, those extra days of practice, Roy, become so important for those programs that really want to establish their mark in the college football landscape, and they just rely on it, right? Not only for recruiting, but to further build your program and take it another tier or two up. And I think David Shaw really has done a remarkable job there. And hats off to he and his staff. He's done a great job keeping continuity on his staff. He only lost one coach, and that was the running backs coach who left. And Ron Gould filled that spot this year.
Blazeman had it fall out of his grasp. It's going to be picked off by Swan. The big fellow rumbled down to the 45 on what will be the next to last play of this football game here in Sydney.
And Lance Taylor was the coach he lost, the former running backs coach, who's now the wide receivers coach at the NFL Panthers. So he kind of went as a package deal with McCaffrey off to the Panthers. How happy is Swan? He can go away and go, hey, I got an interception.
Ron Swan, a sophomore from Indiana. I'll tell you what, it makes that flight home a little faster, doesn't it? Don't forget Sports Center coming up next. We'll send you over to Steve Levy back in Bristol as soon as we're done here in Sydney. Fun week for all of us for the Sydney Cup. And back at the farm, a lot of happy Stanford fans. Jack Richardson in at quarterback, which should be the final play. 62-7. David Shaw feeling good about this trip overseas. Nearly 8,000 miles from home. The Cardinal get the job done.
Well, David Shaw did say he wanted to see his team in action. I think he saw plenty today.